Hello! Welcome back to this video series. My name is Kelly and I am coming to you on behalf of Collective Recovery. Now in this video series, we're talking about romantic relationships in recovery. And relationships can be one of those things where they are very enriching to our life experience. Especially in recovery, we find that we do need relationships. We need healthy relationships. But there will be a point in your recovery where you decide to explore having a romantic relationship, whether you're already married or in a partnership. When you actually enter recovery, these videos can also help you as well. Or if you are someone that is, thinking about dating, thinking about getting into the dating game and you're in recovery, this video series is also very informative for you. So in the last couple videos, we talked about not only the characteristics or some of the characteristics. We didn't cover all of them. There's so many characteristics of toxic relationships. So we covered a few really key ones. And then in the last video, we talked about what are some hallmarks or characteristics of a healthy relationship, right? Those are things to really understand as you're getting into a romantic relationship. Now, what I want to talk about today and in the next video are some things that you can really start to understand and be mindful of as you're entering a relationship, and so that you can set yourself up for success with having a successful romantic relationship. So this particular thing that I'm going to talk about right now specifically relates to those people that are not in a relationship right now, right? This is all about the formation of a relationship. And the first thing that I want to talk about in order to avoid getting into a toxic relationship and having a chance to build a healthy relationship is to build your relationship slowly. So if you are already in a relationship, obviously this doesn't apply to you, but this is just food for thought if you ever get into another romantic relationship other than the one that you're currently in. But this concept of building a relationship slowly allows the relationship to naturally unfold at the pace that it's supposed to unfold, right? Again, referring back to this book, Addictive Relationships from Terry Gorski, phenomenal little read if you ever get a chance to read it. He talks about how there are 4 different stages actually of building a successful, healthy romantic relationship. So before getting to the romance phase or stage of a relationship, it's really important to go through 3 phases. And so let's talk a little bit about what those 3 phases are. The first phase, and again, this some more can be found in this book. This book has been so life-saving for me in my own recovery. But the first stage to go through when you're building a romantic relationship, or before you get to the stage of romance, is the superficial involvement, right? This is where you just are sort of acquaintances. Maybe you meet them in a group, maybe you meet them at the grocery store, maybe you meet them on a dating app. You're just sort of starting to get to know each other. You don't really know a lot, but it's in this phase that we have to really be mindful of our own expectations, right? Now, like I said, in this book, there's a little bit more information about this, but in the superficial involvement phase, what normally happens, or what should happen, is just starting to kind of find out about this person. Is this person someone you even want to go out with, even want to spend quality time with, right? Now, what happens a lot, though, is people will, especially in early recovery, if we don't have the skill set to have a healthy relationship, there's a tendency to want to meet someone, you have all this chemistry with them. There's, you're just superficially involved without actually taking the time to get to know them, but you already commit to a relationship with them without taking the time to go through the rest of the steps, right? If you skip from, superficial involvement and you skip the other 2 steps in between and go right to romance, it's not that your relationship won't work. I've seen it work in very limited cases, but there's a tendency to get into what we call a codependent or toxic relationship, right? Where you find yourself in a situation where it's not really healthy for you to be in, right? So in the superficial involvement phase, this is just where you start to get to know this person. You do not want to make any commitments to this person. You just start to understand what kind of person they are, right? Then you can move into what's called the companionship phase. This is the phase of the relationship where the whole purpose of this phase is to spend time together, doing some sort of shared activity, right? In order to have a very healthy, successful long-term relationship, you actually need three different components. The first one is shared values. And we don't have too much time to get into this. A licensed therapist can actually help you figure out what your values are. That is something that you have to understand what your values are before you can see if this person shares your values, right? The second thing would be shared interests, which is where the companionship phase is super important, and then shared long-term goals. So in the companionship phase, you're really just seeing at this stage of the game, is this person aligned with the same interests? This doesn't mean that they have to love everything that you have to love. If you love hiking and they don't like hiking, to find a different activity, right? The whole purpose of the companionship phase is to find an activity that you guys can share together. Through that shared companionship, through going and doing activities together, you spend quality time together, you get to know this person, you get to see if they are aligned with your values, and then you move forward into what's called the friendship phase of the relationship building or stage, right? In the friendship stage, this is where two people absolutely must start to understand, do your values align with my values? Now, again, this is really super important before you enter the romantic phase of a relationship or stage of a relationship where you actually exclusively commit to each other. Before you commit to anyone, you want to understand, does this person share my interests, right? Which you will find that out through companionship phase. And then in the friendship phase, you find out, does this person align with my long-term goals, relationship goals, and my long-term values, right? Or not my long-term values. Well, your values can be long-term, but your value system, right? And again, if you don't know what your values are, that is where maybe a therapist can actually help you with that. They can help you identify, what are your values? What do you need to see in another person as far as a relationship is concerned, right? So in order to actually move into the romantic phase, you do need to go through the stage of superficial involvement, right, where you're just sort of getting to know each other. Then it's companionship, where you go and do things together. You go on dates, right, basically is the gist of that. And then the third is that you start to develop a friendship with this person. At this phase, you decide, is this person aligned with my goals, my values, and you know, do we want to go any further with this? Do we want to just be friends? Do we want to go our separate ways? What do we want to do in this relationship? If you've successfully gone through all three of those, then you can enter what's called the romantic stage, where you can actually exclusively commit to each other. Okay, so that is something to consider when you are building a romantic relationship or you're entering a romantic relationship. Try to take your time, build it slowly, go through those 4 stages or 3 stages before getting into the romance stage of the relationship. And if you do that, you're going to most likely avoid getting into a toxic relationship and avoiding heartbreak, right? And again, some of this information can be found in this book, Addictive Relationships. Now, tomorrow is the last video in this series, and we are going to be covering a few other things that you need to do in order to establish a healthy romantic relationship. But today's content was very, very valuable to understand. Taking your time and going through each one of those stages is going to be absolutely critical in building a healthy relationship, romantic relationship, right? So if you or a loved one is struggling with substance abuse, you are looking, you are struggling with that, maybe you have addictive behaviors and you need a little help, please give us a call at Collective here at 1-866-UTAH-HOPE, or you could message us here. We're happy to talk to you about any of our programs. We have outpatient treatment, we have sober living. We also just have licensed therapists on staff that you can get in with to help you establish things like your values, make sure you're not in a toxic relationship. That was something that I did. I still work with a therapist every single month, or 3 weeks to a month. I go and I make sure I'm on track with my recovery. Okay, so hopefully that was helpful to you, and we'll see you in the next video.